It was a special day for Mike Schmidt. Not like a day from school or a holiday like Christmas or Easter. Today was much more special in his eyes, for today it was his 7th birthday. For the momentous occasion, Mike's parents decided to bring him to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, a local family restaurant. Mike was practically bouncing in the back seat of the car. Mike loved it at Freddy's. He enjoyed the games, the pizza, but those were never the reason he wanted to go every day. What actually made him enjoy the place so much were the animatronic mascots, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, Foxy the Pirate Fox, and none other than Freddy Fazbear himself. At first glance, the mascots themselves looked like plain old animatronics running a pre-programmed show, but those who stayed after said show no better. For afterwards, the animatronics would walk around and interact with guests. For the time, it was revolutionary, and the kids couldn't get enough of it. However, much to Mike's avail, he and his family would hardly go to Freddy's. Whenever they did go, it wasn't for very long. The restaurant had some bad reputation on its hands, such as the bite of 87 and 5 children going missing inside, both in the same year. But it's been 8 years since the incident, so they thought it was time to allow Mike to return to the place he loved so much. Mike's father waited impatiently at a red light. It was like this light knew it was him every time and decided to stall itself, turning green for his suffering. "Come on, turn green already," he yelled. It was extremely frustrating for him. His wife put her hand on his shoulder. "Henry, it's a light. Yelling at it will not make it go any faster. Besides, you might scare Mike," she said in a hushed tone. He glanced back at his son with the rear-view mirror, who was somewhat laughing at his father's enragement due to an inanimate object. He smiled warmly at him. "So, kiddo, who'd you invite to the party?" "I didn't invite anyone," Mike said, his excitement now gone and replaced with sadness. His father's smile dropped. He knew Mike had some school trouble, but he thought he would have at least tried to invite someone. But his son was more isolated than he, so he decided not to press the matter. "We're almost there, kiddo. You better not get a frown on your face. You know the rules there," he said, trying to cheer him up. From what he could tell, it worked. The light turned green, and he began to turn right towards Pizzeria. That was when it all went wrong. He heard a loud screech to his left, and he saw a speeding car headed straight for them. He tried to maneuver out of its path, but it was too late. The car smashed into the left side of theirs, sending them sliding. The force made Mike smash his head into the lower portion of the front seat, knocking him out. The ambulance quickly came and saw the scene. They found young Mike in the back with a few fractured ribs and a concussion. They sent him to the hospital, but not his parents. They, along with the driver, were killed instantly by the impact. Mike never made it to Freddy's that day, and it was only 2 blocks away from the incident. Mike woke to the all-too-familiar blaring of his alarm clock. He cursed and began smacking the machine, hoping to turn it off, but to no avail. He growled and just ripped it out of the outlet it was in. He sat up in his bed and reached for his phone on the opposite nightstand to check the time, not wanting to bother with the alarm clock. It was 11:30 p.m. Mike let out a heavy sigh, muttering, "Fuck my life," under his breath. It was almost time for his job. Mike worked as a night security guard for Freddy Fazbear's. Oddly enough, it was the same one where, you know what. He shouldn't think about that now. That was 20 years ago. There was no point in revisiting a past Mike wanted to forget. and yet he could still remember how he felt when they told him about his parents. He quickly shook his head, trying to forget it, and started getting ready. The night shift was the very meaning of unpleasant. He got minimum wage pay, had to work from midnight to 6 in the morning, and had to deal with the animatronic mascots trying to shove him in a suit which would give him a very unsettling death. Not a very nice or safe job, but it was a necessary one. Without its pay, despite its poor amount, Mike wouldn't be able to keep his apartment, and it was the middle of January. Getting thrown out now wouldn't be a good idea. He got through 1 week, but wasn't sure if he could survive another. However, Mike was willing to take his chances. The manager decided to offer him doubles the pay if he was willing to continue the night shift. Probably because he didn't want to get off his lazy ass to find another night guard. How could Mike refuse? With that money, he could probably actually keep some of the earnings for himself rather than putting it all to his apartment. Now, he knew that the second week was most certainly going to be more dangerous than the first, but he would have to bear through it. Mike still thought the whole malfunctioning was causing the robot's murderous tendencies was absolute bullshit. There had to be something more, some more explanation, but that was something he would have to worry about later. He took a quick shower, brushed his teeth, put on his uniform and a jacket, and left his apartment. He was a bit famished, but hopefully he could sneak a slice of pizza or two before the graveyard shift started. It was snowing a bit, but Mike didn't mind it. He started his beat-up car and began to drive towards the pizzeria, not noticing the purple-coated figure behind him, giving him a malicious smile. The drive to Freddy's was relatively uneventful, as it usually was for Mike. He always considered it the calm of the storm before he was hit by hail the size of a beach ball, and he had no problem with it being calm. In fact, he preferred it to be so, just sometimes, like now, it was unnerving. Pretty soon, Mike was parking in the lot in front of the pizzeria doors. He got out of the car and began walking to the entrance, when he got a feeling that made the hairs on the back of his rise. He turned around, but saw nothing. He shrugged and reached to the front doors, occasionally glancing behind him just to be sure there was absolutely no one there. After unlocking the door and quickly locking it once he was inside, Mike checked the time, 11:40 p.m. He breathed a sigh of relief. He was 20 minutes early. After getting everything set up in the office, he got up and went into the kitchen, hoping to find a leftover pizza in the fridge. After walking in, he was surprised to see everything was all messy, with pots and pans all over the place. But Chica can't free roam yet, so why is there a huge fucking mess in here? Mike thought. The chefs couldn't have caused this, could they? Was Chica just cleaning after them? Mike's stomach growled loudly in English, interrupting his chain of thoughts. Alright, I'm going. Yeesh. Mike said to no one in particular. He hurried over to the fridge and opened it up, surprised to see a baked pizza inside. It looked as if it were cooked last night, but he didn't see anyone leaving when he drove into the parking lot. Shrugging, he picked up a slice and took a bite from it. As soon as his taste buds took in the pizza's flavor, Mike was sure they exploded. It was the best damn pizza he had ever had in his entire life. And his foster parents were Italian. If Mike were to describe it, he would have to say someone took a chunk of heaven and smacked some cheese, sauce, and pepperoni on it. And he didn't even heat it up. Before he knew it, he had already eaten 3 slices. There was no way in hell the chefs did this. Mike came in the morning before and got a pizza, and it tasted like a piece of cardboard pretending to be bread. Now that he thought about it, it wouldn't be too surprising if the chefs did leave this kind of mess. But that would mean his gaze slowly turned to the animatronic chicken on the stage. No fucking way, he said aloud. She did it. That bird cooked that delicious circle of heaven. How in all that is holy did that chicken learn how to cook this good? Then again, with how long she must have been cooking, it would make sense if what she was doing truly was cooking. He would ask for lessons, that is, if they would stop trying to stuff him. He walked out and stood in front of the stage. The animatronics were in their usual spots, and it was then that Mike noticed something. They were dirty as hell. Then an idea popped into his head. He could clean them. Maybe it would put them on good terms if they already weren't. Mike remembered on his 7th night, a kid somehow got in and he helped him out while the animatronics watched on stage. He had no idea why they didn't help the kid, but he wasn't too keen on analyzing it. So, if that didn't put him on their do not kill list, maybe this would. He went over to the supply closet that Bonnie was so keen on hiding in to search for a bucket and a rag. Luckily, the janitor had left one with some soapy water in there, with a slightly dirty rag on the shelf above it. It wasn't A-grade cleaning equipment, but it was better than nothing. He checked the time once more. 11:45 p.m. He had enough time. He started with Bonnie first, who had a lot of stains on him. Hopefully they were food stains and not, well, you know. While cleaning him, he stated, "Phone guy really wasn't joking when he said you guys couldn't take baths, huh?" Despite looking at a dark violet rather than his unusual lavender, it didn't take long to get him looking as good as new. Well, at least as close as he could get. Next up was Chica, who had a ton of food bits stuck in her suit, not to mention the shit in her beak. But like Bonnie, she went relatively quickly. The most difficult one to do was Freddy, who had a red handprint on his face along with the other dirt and grime on his suit. The handprint, which Mike sprayed, wasn't blood. Took a while to get off, but Mike managed, along with the rest of him. He sat back to admire his handiwork, quite proud of what he did in such short notice. Then the midnight bell went off, telling him his shift wasn't able to get Foxy. But he would worry about that later. Complimenting Chica on her fantastic pizza, he quickly made his way into his office, picking up the camera tablet and checking the dining hall. His second week had officially begun. Fuck me, it had been 2 whole hours without any animatronic activity, and Mike had been bored as to all hell. He couldn't believe he could think such a thing, but he actually started to wish they would try to kill him again. At least they gave him something to pass the time. Without them, Mike had to invent new ways of how to entertain himself. One of them involved talking to the plastic cupcake in his office, who he promptly named Bob, about the economic state of America until he could realize that he was talking to an inanimate object about the economy. It was odd. Mike was used to being isolated since he's been a loner type since the accident. He never acted like this before, so why was he acting like this now? His eyes slowly fell on the tablets that laid unused for a while now. Maybe he could check up on the animatronics. Hopefully they'll be doing some shit by now. As soon as he turned the camera on, he nearly dropped in surprise. If the law of realities didn't apply to him, he was sure his head would have become a rocket and flown to the goddamn moon. They were talking. Not like garbled demonic noises. They were having actual conversations with one another. When the fuck could they do this shit? Mike sighed. He knew they had some intelligence since they formulated a plan of attack when they came after him, but this? Was this even possible? The only time he saw them talk was during the day, and all that was pre-programmed. Were they active this whole damn time? Why didn't they come after him like usual? So many questions were floating in his mind. He didn't notice Freddy had left the group and was headed towards his office. In fact, he didn't even realize it until a deep voice came from the left door.
Mr. Schmidt, we would like to have a word with you.
Mike slowly looked to his left to see none other than Freddy standing there. Out of pure instinct, he quickly grabbed Bob and chucked him at Freddy, hitting him in the face. Instead of making him recoil, it just seemed to make him annoyed. Seeing the look Freddy gave him made Mike get up and walk towards the dining hall without question. He sat in a chair with the 4 animatronics standing around him. They all gave him looks as if expecting him to do something. What? He stuttered. Bonnie spoke up.
Why did you clean us? No one's cleaned us for years. And for a good reason.
Mike quickly stated, "You guys look like you needed cleaning. Did you not want to be clean? I'm so sorry." His worry ran was interrupted by Freddy.
There is no reason to be afraid, Mike. We aren't going to hurt you.
Mike looked at him. You guys seemed pretty keen on killing me on the first week. What made you change your mind? Freddy simply replied,
1. The way you handled the child on Saturday made us realize you meant him no harm. 2. You cleaned us despite our actions towards you. 3. You complimented her cooking.
He finished, motioning towards Chica, who smiled at him. Mike squirmed in his seat uncomfortably. So, does that mean you guys won't try to stuff me? Freddy nodded. At that moment, it felt like a pile of anvils had been lifted from his chest, his worries going with him. But that only left one question in Mike's head. What now? The animatronics looked amongst themselves. Bonnie said,
I could teach you to play guitar, if you wanted.
Chica perked up, adding,
I could teach you how to cook.
Foxy, with the enthusiasm of an 8-year-old, stated,
He could come over to me cove and I could share me tales of the 70s.
Freddy chuckled at Foxy's statement and said,
I'll help you if you need anything. So Mike, what would you like to do?
I looked at the time. It was 3 a.m. He had a while left to go until his shift was over. What did he have to lose? Other than his life. But hey, what's life without taking risks? Boring, and Mike wasn't about to spend 3 more hours talking to a cupcake. I'll take you up on that guitar lesson, Bonnie. I just need to get a few things from my office. Bonnie smiled and nodded. Mike ran into the office, but skidded to a halt when he saw that a purple-clothed man was inside. An evil grin plastered onto his face. Hello, Mr. Schmidt. We have much to discuss. Mike stood as still as a statue. Who was this guy? How did he get in the building? He couldn't help but get an extremely bad vibe from him. His smile wasn't making things any better. Mike began to back up slowly out of the left door, hoping the man wouldn't notice. Sir, are you lost? You need some help? I can. Mike was interrupted when the purple-clad figure, with surprising speed and strength, grabbed him by the collar and threw him into the back wall, shutting the doors after he did. Mike was about to say something, but quickly stopped when he saw the man had a knife. As I said, Schmidt, you and I have a lot to talk about. The man stepped into the light and pulled back his hood, making Mike gasp as he did so. His clothes weren't the only purple thing on him. His skin was purple, like Bonnie's shade of purple. The purple guy noticed his reaction and began to laugh hysterically. What's wrong, Mikey? Never seen a purple person before? He continued, his laughing calming down a while later. Suddenly, his face turned serious, and before Mike realized it, he was at his neck, the knife above his Adam's apple. Why are you here, Schmidt? Mike was terrified. He could only stutter out incomprehensible words which only seemed to anger Purple Man. English, Mike. Speak fucking English. Mike shrank back into the wall as far as he could go, not knowing what this man could do to him. The purple guy seemed to be collecting himself, allowing Mike to get a good look at his attacker. His head was covered with a Freddy Fazbear night guard hat, similar to the one Mike had, only his was purple. He seemed to be in his late 40s, his face seeming a bit worn with stubbles of facial hair covering the lower portion of it. His eyes were a dark brown from Mike could tell. He was honestly trying to not make eye contact, afraid it might set him off. After what seemed like years, the man was finally calm. Alright, let me introduce myself. My name is James. I was a previous night guard here, and I was wondering why you would stay another week here. No guard ever did, for one reason or another. So tell me, Mike, why are you here? Mike tried speaking, but all that came out were the same stuttered sounds he made previously. He could swear he saw James' eye twitch. Now listen here, Mike. Pissing off a man who killed 5 children without any remorse is not a good plan. Mike could feel his blood chill. It was him. Holy shit, it was him. He killed him. But that man was caught. James began to laugh uncontrollably. You mean Fritz? Oh no. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He made for a good cover story, though. Shame they gave him the death penalty. But he deserved it, right? After all. He grinned like a madman. He did murder 5 innocent kids. Mike's blood immediately rose in temperature. His fear replaced with anger. You let an innocent man die? You son of a bitch, I'm gonna... He was quickly interrupted by Mike laughing. Usually it would piss him off even more, but this time it made him fear for his life once more. There was just something about his laugh. It was wrong. What are you going to do, huh, Schmidt? He tore off his hat, revealing multiple scars. Foxy already tried killing me, and I'm still fucking ticking. If Mike were to widen his eyes any more than he already did, his eyes would probably fall out of their sockets. He was the bite victim. Both incidents at this restaurant were caused by him. Well, not so much the bite, but it wouldn't have happened if he didn't kill those kids. I thought that this place would have closed after an innocent man like me was injured by that fucking fox. But somehow, it kept water. You're probably wondering why I would kill 5 kids. I couldn't deny he was the tiniest bit curious. Slowly nodding his head, mostly out of fear that James might gut him had he refused. James continued. I was ridiculed by my whole damn life for something I had no control over. Because of this genetic disorder. This fucking genetic disorder. Everyone kept calling me the purple guy and other shit. Even my own parents started calling me purple, and they named me. I thought it would calm down further down the road, but it only got worse. Then I got a job here. Everyone hated me. My boss forced me into the day guard position, made me stay here until 11 at night. All my colleagues kept staring or avoiding me like I had the plague. But those little shits were the worst. They insulted me, threw things at me, made me wonder why I fucking exist. But then, I got a plan. The boss man made me stay late, as usual, but this time to a supervised birthday party. That was when I found that yellow bear. I pulled all the shit out, put it on, and stuffed the kids in the animatronics. It's funny, when they saw me, they told me how they never wanted to leave because of how fun it was. Now they never can. He broke out into a laughter once more. All Mike could wonder is how he could be this fucked up. Yeah, he went through a lot of rough stuff, but that didn't give him the right to do all those horrible things. Suddenly, James' face lit up like a Christmas tree. Speaking of the runs, How about we pay them a little visit, eh? He grabbed Mike and began dragging him out of the office into the dining hall. He could see all the animatronics prepping to greet him until he saw James, who was smiling. He pulled Mike up into the position of a human shield. "Hey kids, it's me." Then without any warning or hesitation, he plunged the knife into Mike's right shoulder. Mike felt the knife pierce his flesh, but felt no pain until a split moment later. As soon as he received it, he fell on the ground, screaming in agony. He couldn't feel his arm, but he was sure it was due to the pain, or because James hit something vital for his operation. James ran out of the building while the animatronics circled around Mike, unsure of what to do. Mike quickly blacked out, the morning bell being the last thing he heard. Mike awoke in a hospital bed, slight pain still in the shoulder. He tried sitting up, but his shoulder gave way, forcing him back down. He groaned, out of annoyance and out of pain. He felt helpless. He couldn't do anything in this bed. He couldn't even get out of it correctly. The only time he felt as helpless was when it happened. He could remember when he woke up. The doctor pointed to him, had a look of sadness inscribed on his face. When Mike got the news, he broke down. He didn't speak to anyone for a week, only nodding or shaking his head for communication. He was just as helpless now as he was back then. Except back then, a psychopath wasn't keeping an eye on his every move. A passing doctor noticed that he was awake and walked into the room. "Hello, Mr. Schmidt. My name is Anthony Smith, and I'll be taking care of you for today. Now, I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled into your first night." Mike stared at him. "What did you just say?" Anthony looked at him, a bit confused. "I said I wanted to ask you a couple of questions to clear some things up." Mike let out the breath he was holding in without noticing it. Anthony looked at him oddly. "Are you feeling alright, Mr. Schmidt?" "I can come back later if..." Mike quickly interrupted him. No. It's fine. Just a bit shaking up is all." Anthony looked as if he was going to say something, but decided to drop it. "Alright then. So first off, do you remember anything about your attacker?" Mike was about to speak when he saw something that made his blood chill. Golden Freddy was down the hall, a finger placed on his lips, as if telling Mike to shush. Mike quickly shut his mouth and shook his head. "Okay, do you know who called the ambulance for you? We need the info just in case." Mike was honestly surprised to hear that someone called them. The only ones who could have were the... Mike shook his head once again. The rest of the questions went by quickly, being about contact, info, and other things. "Alright, thank you for the information. We can get you cleared up and ready to go in a couple hours, but you'll have to make sure not to move that arm once you're out. Make sure not to move that arm much once you're out. Come back in a week or two and we'll check to see how it's healing." Mike nodded his head and watched as Anthony left. He glanced down the hall to see the Golden Freddy was no longer there. It was then that he noticed a bouquet of violets in the right corner of the room. "That creepy fucker," Mike thought. How long was James watching him? Mike didn't want to think about it. More worried, that Golden Freddy thing. He saw it in the pizzeria before, but he didn't think he would see it outside. He shook his head. "It's just a hallucination, Mikey. Don't let it get to you," he thought. It didn't help much. Later, Anthony stayed true to his word, and Mike left around 2 hours later. His arm casted. He stepped outside, quickly greeted by the chilly air. Damn winter, he thought. Mike usually didn't mind the winter, but he wasn't in the best of moods. Not being able to get to use his good arm and all. Luckily, the hospital wasn't too far from his apartment, so he was easily able to walk there. As soon as he walked in, he took off his jacket and collapsed on his bed. Falling asleep, as soon as his face made contact with the pillow. Mike was in the pizzeria, that much was certain, but it looked different. He began walking around, noticing the change in the layout. He soon came to a room with a stage, 3 animatronics standing on it, but they weren't the animatronics Mike was familiar with. These ones were the older toy models. Mike had only seen these on some old posters that were in his office. So does that mean that this was the old location? It couldn't be. Mike had never been there, so he couldn't dream about it, especially with this much detail. A small sigh caught his attention, and he gasped when he turned to see what had made the sound. It was a small child, no more than 8 years old, surrounded by 4 others of the same age. They were 4 boys and 1 girl. Then he saw Golden Freddy walking towards the group. It didn't take Mike long to realize what he was seeing. This was the incident. He was seeing the missing children's incident. "Hey, kids, why the long faces?" Golden Freddy cooed. The children looked up at him, a bit surprised. One of them, who had hair the color of Freddy, spoke up. "The last show played, so now we have to wait for our parents." The girl quickly added, "Yeah, and they're taking a long time." Golden Freddy smiled warmly. "The fun doesn't have to be over yet. Follow me." He began walking away, the children and Mike following suit. Soon they were in a room labeled Parts and Services. Mike noticed the withered frames of the animatronics as soon as he walked in. Freddy was in horrible condition. Bonnie was missing his face and part of his right arm. And Chica's hands were missing, and her beak was open widely, revealing her endoskeleton's teeth. Foxy was the only one who looked familiar, and since he was usually in disrepair, Golden Freddy locked the door and pulled off his head to reveal James, except his eyes were pure white. "Now, children, the real fun begins." Mike woke up in a cold sweat, breathing heavily. He looked around frantically, seeing he was in his apartment. He let out a sigh of relief. He was safe, relatively speaking. He looked at his alarm clock. It was 11:40 p.m. "I never get a break, do I?" he muttered, getting up to get his jacket and a spare uniform since the other one had a lot of blood in it. It was time for another night of hell. Mike was lucky that he had a spare uniform. He would rather not walk around the town covered in blood. That might make him seem a bit crazy, which Mike wasn't. But he was beginning to think that all of this shit he was going through was starting to take a toll on him. That one doctor said something off of one of the phone guy's recordings in the exact same voice. Golden Freddy appeared in the hospital, and then there was that dream. More like a nightmare, now that Mike thought about it. He shuddered at the memory of Jane's white eyes. It freaked him out. He wasn't very happy about the fact that he had to walk to Freddy's either, especially since the storm was supposed to hit soon, but he couldn't drive with his left arm. It was something he could never do, no matter how hard he tried. Mike was practically shivering the whole way there, glancing back every once in a while to make sure no one was following and prepping to murder him. Thankfully, no one was the whole way, and he made it before the storm arrived. When he got there, he saw the manager just now walking up. When he turned around and saw Mike, he seemed quite surprised. "Mike, my boy, what are you doing here? Didn't you hear about the storm coming?" Mike nodded his head. "Yeah, but I got nothing better to do, so I may as well do my job." The manager smiled at him. "Determination, Mike. That's what I like to hear. I'll make sure to add this to your pay." With a quiet farewell, the manager left. He was always so cheery for some reason. Mike couldn't say he hated the man, despite the fact he made him work through 7 days of killer animatronics. With the manager's vehicle out of sight, Mike made his way into the building. It took him a bit longer to get set up than usual. but he got everything ready before the midnight bell went off. As soon as it did, he heard footsteps coming from both halls. Before he could even react, the animatronics had him locked in a group hug.
Mike, you're alright.
Bunny said.
We thought you were a goner.
Chica added. Mike would have said something, but it was hard to due to the lack of air he had because of their hug. He was able to wheeze out, "Guys, air, need." The gang quickly realized their error and put him back in the chair. Mike gasped for air as soon as they did. Thankful he didn't due to the love of 7-foot-tall machines. He was only surprised. The animatronics seemed genuinely worried for his safety. The only people who worried about him this much before were his parents and foster parents. Yeah, I'm fine, guys. No need to worry about me, he said. Mike was considering telling them about his dream, but he decided against it, not wanting to ruin the moment. Not to mention, he was still trying to wrap his head around it. Freddy suddenly spoke up.
We're glad you're alright, Mike. You gave us all quite a fright after that man attacked you.
Mike could tell Freddy was trying to hide something, but he decided to leave it be. Bonnie was the next to say something.
So, Mike, you, still want that guitar lesson?
Mike looked at him. Not to be rude or anything, but I don't think I can operate an instrument, especially a guitar. Bonnie laughed.
Oh, please, just because you can't hold the thing doesn't mean you can't learn how to play it.
Mike looked skeptical. He and Bonnie walked out of the office and onto the stage. Mike sat on the edge of it, and Bonnie joined him after getting his guitar.
Alright, Mike, now watch closely.
Roughly after an hour or so of Bonnie teaching him how to use the guitar and showing him the keys, Mike was starting to get it down. After playing a rather simplistic song, Bonnie's face lit up.
Good job. You see, now you're getting the hang of it. Took a while, sure, but you can't just merely be good at something. Well, you can, but... oh, you get what I mean.
Mike chuckled. In the hour they spent with one another, Mike learned a lot about Bonnie. He was a bit of a jokester, but was kind and helpful as well. So far, he was having a really good time with the bunny. Then Mike said something he shouldn't have. "Hey Bonnie, what do you know about that purple guy?" As soon as the words came out of his mouth, Bonnie's cheerful face turned blank as a slate. The sudden change in Bonnie's mood surprised Mike. "But Bonnie, you alright?" Bonnie's face didn't change and he kept staring at a wall.
Don't talk about him.
Mike was confused. What? What are you... Without any warning, Bonnie grabbed him by the throat and lifted him up. His eyes now black with small pinpricks of light.
I said, don't talk about that murderer. He took everything from us. Everything.
Mike was terrified. His feet weren't touching the ground and he was struggling to make sure he didn't suffocate. "But, Bonnie, please..." He couldn't finish his sentence. His vision began to blur. Suddenly, a loud voice erupted with anger.
Bonnie, put him down. Now.
Mike turned to look who it was. It was Freddy. And by the look on his face, he was not happy. Chica and Foxy entered the room to see the scene before them. Horror etched into their expressions. Bonnie looked at Freddy's, and upon seeing the look on his face, he dropped Mike and his eyes and went back to normal. Bonnie had a look of horror on his face.
Mike, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean...
But it was too late. Mike got up and ran into the office, shutting the doors on both sides.
to hurt you.
Bonnie finished sadly. He messed up big time. Freddy wasted no time in storming or to him.
Why did you do that?
His voice was calm, but was dripping with anger.
It's not my fault. He mentioned him.
Freddy softened his gaze and put a hand on his shoulder.
It's alright. You didn't mean to.
Bonnie wished he could cry. He couldn't cry. He just couldn't. Instead, his voice made odd cracks.
Freddy, do you think it was really him?
Freddy sighed.
I'm afraid so.
Foxy spoke up.
There's no ways that lad survived. I bit him as hard as me chompers would allow.
Freddy looked at him.
Did you see him after you bit him? We had no real evidence that he was dead. We could only guess. Now we have to face the facts. James is back, and he's going after Mike.
Mike was shuddering into the office, scared out of his mind. The animatronics never reacted like that, even when they were trying to kill him. Was it because he mentioned James? He knew they probably had a problem with him, but he never thought it would be that bad. He looked at the camera in the dining hall and saw the other animatronics trying to comfort Bonnie. Maybe Mike overreacted, but how was he supposed to react? Just be okay with the fact that Bonnie went apeshit and nearly strangled him to death? He sighed, putting the tablet down. He didn't want to see the scene that he caused. He thought about going to apologize, but decided against it. What was he supposed to say? He began pacing around, mentally beating himself over what he did. That is, until he heard a giggle that was all too familiar. He slowly turned his head towards the sound, and sure enough, Golden Freddy sat there, slumped over in his usual position. Mike began to panic even more than he already has. The tablet was on the desk, and he couldn't get to it. How was he supposed to get rid of him? He began looking around frantically until Golden did something he never did before. He got up. Mike freaked out. He never got up before. He wasn't supposed to be able to get up. Golden began walking towards him slowly. He looked around for any weapon and found nothing. All he could do was watch as Golden reached out and put his hand on Mike's forehead, making him black out. Mike opened his eyes to a familiar scene, a scene he didn't want to see again. He was in the parts and services room once again. James smiled at the children. "What's wrong, kids? Don't you want to have fun?" The children backed up in horror as James took the rest of the suit off. His eyes fell on a boy with a purple shirt with a guitar on it. "Like to rock, kid? Well, I know the perfect costume for you." He grabbed the boy forcefully and tore off Bonnie's withered head. He picked up the boy and set his legs at the base of the suit's neck and began to shove. Mike could only watch with a horrified expression as he heard the boy scream in agony. He could hear the bones snapping as James kept pushing him inside. The boy was screaming for him to stop, for someone to help him as his arms and chest was shoved into the suit. The boy whimpered, "Mommy," and he fell silent. James put Bonnie's head over the boy's, twisting it until it was in place. Despite the sickening squishes and snappings that could be heard, blood seeped from every exit in the suit, covering the floor. James looked at the blood covering him and smiled. He wanted to see more. He wanted to give them a new life. He turned his head over to the girl, who was desperately trying to open the door. The other three boys only stood in horror of what occurred. "You're quite eager to leave, little girl. The fun isn't over yet." He began laughing as he dragged her over to Chica, despite her screaming and struggling, and did the same thing he did with the boy. The boy, adorned with pirate fashion, whimpered in fear, catching the attention of James. Now, pirates aren't afraid of anything. Not even death." He began dragging him over to Foxy, and until the brown-haired boy leaped on his back. James was taken aback by this, but quickly threw the boy off of him and shoved the other one into Foxy. He turned to the brown-haired boy. "You got the spunk of a leader, kid. So how about you lead the band, huh?" Despite the boy's weak protest, he soon joined others' fates. His eyes then fell on the remaining blonde-haired boy. "I'm afraid there aren't any more costumes left. Sorry, kid, but you can't join the band." Unless... His eyes turned to his golden Freddy suit. Before the boy could react, he snapped his neck and placed his corpse inside the suit. He raised him up on the back wall and began laughing. I gave them new life. They'll be happy. They'll never leave. He broke out into laughter as the midnight bell went off. Mike could hear the door being unlocked and his security guard burst in, seeing the aftermath of the scene. Mike caught a glance at the name tag on the guard, and it read, Fritz Smith. James quickly lashed out and knocked him out, placed him next to the animatronics, and left like nothing ever happened. Mike opened his eyes and instantly puked all over the floor, both out of the sick feeling he got from that experience and what he saw. How did he not see it before? It was the kids. The kids were possessing the animatronics. Mike knew that glitch thing was horseshit, but he never expected this kind of stuff. Mike looked up after he was finished puking to see Golden Freddy was gone. He considered that kid lucky. He was relatively quick and, unlike... How in God's name could James find that shit he did funny or good in any way? He knew that guy was seriously fucked up. Now he knew the true extent of his madness. He looked at the camera tablet to see Bonnie was looking a bit better. No wonder they acted the way they did. They're kids. They didn't know what to do when Mike got stabbed. Bonnie reacted harshly all because they were children. They were angry at James, and they could only lash out at him. Hell, he would be pissed off if he was shoved in a suit like that. He looked at the closed door of the office. He had to fix things. He got up when his cell phone began to ring. He looked at who was calling, and it was his foster mother's cell. He answered and said, "Hey Mom, what's up?" but was quickly interrupted by a voice that made his blood turn into literal ice. "Guess again, Mikey." It was James. Mike was frozen with terror. How did he have his mother's phone? What did he do to her? He heard James chuckle. "Don't worry, Schmidt. She's fine. I'm just helping her bring groceries in." She looked like she needed help. Mike couldn't say anything. He was too terrified. He would say something that would set James off and make him hurt his mom. James continued, obviously making sure Mike's mother was out of earshot. "Listen here, Schmidt. No one you care about is safe from me, so you better show me some respect and decency the next time we meet, or one of them might end up in a grave. Oh, and stop pretending you're a hero or you're brave. You aren't. All you are is a little boy who misses mommy and daddy. So be careful, or you'll end up an orphan again." "Coming, Mrs. Schmidt." "I'll see you soon, Mikey." He hung up. That bastard was using his parents to keep him in check. Mike didn't know what to do. His parents were being held hostage and they didn't even know it. Anything he could try would end with his or his parents ending up dead. Mike sighed. He had to wait it out and keep his emotions in check the next time that violet freak showed up. He turned on a handheld radio he brought with him the previous night and checked if they had any updates on the oncoming storm, hoping to get his mind off the situation at hand. To his surprise, a forecast was on. "Alright, it appears this is a pretty big storm. We're estimated to get about 22 inches of snow with some possible hail. Keep your shovels at the ready, because you're going to." Mike shut off the station. He opened one of the doors and looked down the hall to see the snow already piling up at the entrance. Fucking winter, just go the hell away already. The snow wasn't the only issue Mike had to worry about. He still had to apologize to Bonnie. He checked the cameras to see Bonnie was actually in the supply closet, while Freddy and Chica were chatting in the dining hall. Foxy was likely in his cove, so now was the chance. Mike got up and walked down to the supply closet and opened the door, surprising Bonnie from what he could tell.
Oh, hey, Mike. I was just...
Mike squeezed in the closet, closed the door, and sat next to Bonnie. "Bon, I'm sorry for the way I reacted. I didn't know how to. I was scared. I don't know. All of this is way too crazy. One moment you guys are trying to kill me. The next you're my friends. That purple motherfucker is threatening me and the people I care about. I don't know what to do. My life is falling apart at the fucking seams, and I can't stop it. You guys were kids. You shouldn't have died. Mike realized too late he let it slip, but he didn't care. He may as well let it out. Bonnie could only stare as the man broke down. That is until he did something. He hugged him. This caught Mike completely off guard.
If anyone should be apologizing, Mike, it's me. I shouldn't have done what I did. I could have killed you. I might have if Freddy didn't step in. Look, let's try to put all of this behind us, alright? No point in holding on to the past, especially ours.
Mike nodded. It was time to let go of the past. Maybe he should move from his... He tried, but it was like every time in his life he was close to finally moving on, someone just kept bringing it back up. After struggling to get out of the closet, the two made their way to the dining hall, entering as soon as Freddy and Chica finished up their chat.
Ah, Michael, I trust you and Bonnie made up.
Freddy said, cheerily. Mike nodded while Bonnie said,
He knows, Fred.
Freddy looked over at Mike for confirmation, in which Mike simply nodded.
Oh, I see. Well, I hope this doesn't affect how you see us. I can completely understand if it does.
Mike shook his head. No, not at all. It's just odd is all. I don't mean to be insensitive, but what were your guys' names? Freddy looked down in sadness.
We can't remember our names. We can't even remember our parents. All we can remember is the pain. It's something we don't like to discuss, but that was long ago. This is now. No point in letting the past drag us down now, sir. I believe Chica had something to ask you.
He looked over at her and she smiled as best as she could.
Wanna learn how to cook?
Mike looked at her with a joyous expression. Hell yeah, I do. Michael always wanted to learn on how to cook, especially due to the bullshit salary he got. He figured learning how to make edible meals would be useful, not to mention it interested him. He and Chica walked into the kitchen where a pile of dough laid on a countertop.
I'm going to show you how to make some quality pizza.
Mike was a bit disappointed, but from Chica, he didn't expect much else. Cool, so what do I do? He wasn't as excited as he sounded, but he was still eager to learn how to cook something.
Alright, first off, you got to method the dough down.
After showing Mike how to do so, he gave it a shot. Needless to say, it ended poorly. Instead of rolling into a circle, it turned into a blob. After trying to rectify his mistake a couple times, he grew frustrated and threw it behind him, accidentally hitting Foxy, who popped in to say hi. Chica began to laugh hysterically at the now white-faced pirate Fox, who scowled at the cook before exiting as quickly as he entered. Will he be mad at me for that? Mike asked, a tad bit worried.
Oh no, don't worry about it. He isn't the one to hold a grudge, especially if it's as small as that. Now you have to be careful with the dough. You were trying to roll it like it was a rock. You have to be smooth and in control. Watch me.
Chica then went into a much more detailed explanation, showing Mike what he did wrong, and helped him to not make those same mistakes. Chica, in a sense, was similar to Bonnie in the way of teaching. However, she was much more hands-on, letting Mike try multiple times and showing him what to do if he kept making a mistake. She was also much more sarcastic, similar to Mike in a sense. However, Mike was never this sarcastic. After going through all of the other steps to cook a pizza, Mike finally made a semi-decent pizza. It was nothing close to Chica's pizza, but it was edible at least. After they were finished, Mike had to ask something about after seeing the animatronic eat some of the pizza. Hey Chica, why do you eat? I mean, you're a machine, so you don't really need to. Chica looked over at him.
It usually helps me cope with our current situation. I like to pretend tasting it since it makes me feel happy and content. Despite, well, you know.
Mike nodded his head. It made sense, she just wanted to try reliving old memories. Then all of a sudden, there was a loud crash outside. The two burst from the kitchen to see Freddy holding Bonnie, who had deep gashes in his suit. He looked as if he were in pain. Could they even feel pain?
Bonnie!
Chica yelled. She ran over to the duo. Mike followed suit, asking, "What the hell happened?" Freddy looked frantic.
It was James. He walked in without a care in the world. He took every ounce of my being not to tear him apart on the spot. But Foxy wasn't as held back as I was. He tried attacking James, but he escaped outside.
Mike looked at him. "So, where's Foxy?" Freddy pointed to the open door to the entrance. He was outside, in a snowstorm. From what Mike could see, it was hard to see clearly out there. Then a realization came to Mike. If Foxy didn't find his way back, his servos would freeze up. He would die. Mike immediately began putting on his jacket and all the winter clothing he brought with him. "You guys know how to fix Bonnie, right?" Freddy and Chica nodded. "Good, I'll be back. I have to find Foxy before it's too late." With that, Mike walked out into the storm, where the cold wasn't the only thing that might kill him. The cold wind assaulted Mike like a bull, smacking him as hard as it possibly could, forcing him to try blocking it with his hand. Of all the damn times for a storm to hit, it had to be the one time where a purple psychopath decides to waltz in, injure Bonnie, and bolt out with animatronic Fox on his heels. It was like fate loved to take a massive shit on his luck. It was hardly visible outside, and if Mike didn't keep his past in mind, he could get lost out there. Just one more reason to hate winter. "Foxy! Foxy!" Mike yelled, hoping his voice would go over the winds. No response. Not even James taunted him. The only sound Mike could probably hear was the wailing of the wind around him, and it was making him nervous. Then he heard it, the giggle of Golden Freddy. To see the golden animatronic motioning for him. He was hesitant at first, but he quickly began walking towards him. He could lead him to Foxy. Golden kept teleporting further away and motioning for Mike to follow, and Mike did. Finally, he and Golden found Foxy lying in the snowbank. Foxy instantly perked up when he saw the two.
"Mikey, Goldie, oh, it warms me serious to see ye unharmed. That scallywag James shut off me legs. I can't move."
Mike ran over to him and began pushing all the snow off of the captain and reached down to wrap his arm around his neck. However, he was showed the way, and when he looked up, he saw James, smiling. "Mikey, so glad you could make it. I didn't think you could handle the cold, but there's a first for everything. Like me, for example. I'm about to kill my first animatronic." Mike struggled to get up out of the snowbank. "You bastard, I won't let you. I won't let you hurt Foxy, you son of a bitch." James laughed. "No, Mike. Who said anything about hurting Foxy?" Before anyone could react, James pulled out a spray and a match and used it to set Golden alight. Screams in pain could be heard over the winds in James' laughter. Then Golden stopped trying to put the fire out, fell silent, and collapsed, still as ice. James began laughing even harder, and Mike stared with a horrified expression. "You son of a bitch, you killed him! You killed him!" Mike charged at him, but James quickly punched him back into the snowbank he was thrown into. For a 40-something-year-old, the bastard could hit like a truck. Mike looked at him angrily. "Why did you do it, you sick fuck?" James looked at him, ecstatic demeanor replaced with rage. "To prove a point, Schmidt. to prove to you and these little shits that I'm not playing anymore. I'm not making empty threats. And this fucking shows it. You and these little brats all want to play hero like it's a game. You want to play a goddamn game, Schmidt? Is that what you fucking want? Fine, I'll play a fucking game. It's called How Long It Takes Mikey's Parents to Bleed Out on the Floor. With that, James set out deeper into the storm until he was out of sight of Mikey and Foxy. Mike was as pale as the snow around him. James warned him, but he didn't listen. He let his emotions get the better of him. Because of it, his parents might not make it through tonight. Mike slowly got up and wrapped Foxy's arms around his neck, while Foxy dragged Golden's suit along with him. Foxy, leave it. He's gone. Foxy looked at the man.
That ain't so, lad. He didn't have an endoskeleton, so his parents attached to the suit. He can't die unless the suit is completely destroyed and is still intact. Charred a wee bit, sure, but intact.
As if on cue, Golden sprang to life and got up, looking at the two.
Told you so,
Foxy said matter-of-factly. Mike simply rolled his eyes. With the assistance of Golden, Mike, and Foxy were able to arrive at the pizzeria once more. During his adventure, Mike was able to learn about some of Foxy's tales. Apparently, he killed a Kraken by taking a post from his ship and beating it to death with it. And he meant one of the large ones. He also learned Foxy was very ecstatic, more so than the others, but was quick to anger. Mike could understand it. He didn't want his friends to get hurt. Once they entered the pizzeria, Freddy and Chica ran over to them, asking questions faster than answers could come. Golden quickly stepped between them and Mike and Foxy. Shaking his head, the two understood to leave it be and helped Foxy into the back room so he could be fixed up and they could clean Golden. Mike shuffled over into the office and put his head down. Of all the fuck-ups he did, this was the worst. His parents were James's next target, and he couldn't do anything about it. His vehicle was stuck in the snow. He could barely fucking see. James had his mother's cell phone, and they didn't have a home phone, and his dad saw them as pointless. All he could do was hope that James didn't find his way to his parents' home in the storm. Other than that, he was helpless. After getting cleaned up and repaired, the animatronics tried to cheer him up, but to no avail. 3 hours later at 5 a.m., the storm cleared up considerably. You could see just fine. The snow stopped falling, and people came and cleared out all the snow on the sidewalk and road. They were even nice enough to clear out the Fazbear parking lot, freeing Mike's vehicle from the snow. Mike hadn't moved an inch the entire time and spoke to none of the animatronics. All of them, including Golden, were starting to worry about him. He'd never been this sad before. They had no idea how to cheer him up. Then Mike got a call from his mom's cell. He knew it was James. After letting it ring a bit, Mike picked up the phone. "I'm giving you a shot, Schmidt. You have one chance to find your parents. One chance. You want to play a game? So let's play. One rule. All of you have to participate. I'm going to tell you a riddle, and it will lead you to your parents. So here we go. What room is useless to a ghost? Good luck, Schmidt. Your parents will need it." He hung up. A room that was useless to a ghost? What was he, some from fucking preschool? It was a living room. He was at their house. After telling the other situation, they all, with extreme difficulty, got into Mike's car and sped over to his parents' place. Once arriving, they opened the door to find Mike's parents unconscious on the living room floor. "Search around. James is bound to be here somewhere," Mike said. After thoroughly searching the house twice, they couldn't find James. Mike was confused. He said they were here, so why wasn't he? Yeah, the animatronics came with him, but still, James didn't seem like the kind of guy to just run away. Then he got a text from his mother's cell. "Riddle me this, Schmidt. What do you do when you want to do something but not get stopped? You call it distraction. Also, thanks for leaving the doors unlocked. Made my job easier." Mike paled. "Guys, we gotta go. Now, after even more difficulties, the group arrived at the pizzeria once more. After bursting inside and going into the dining hall, Mike puked on the floor. Inside was a woman and a child. Both throats slit and laid up against the wall. On the wall, written in blood, was, "Try explaining this." Not long after, the morning bell rang. The police arrived after a couple of hours after the initial discovery. Mike had called them as soon as he was able to move without puking all over the place. He had never actually seen a dead body, excluding the dream and his parents at their funeral. The scene was just too much for him to comprehend. The police asked multiple questions, probably to get more information on what happened. Mike answered them, but never really kept them in mind. He was just asked to place the bodies in bags and took them out. It was his fault. He fell for James' bait, and because of it, an innocent woman and child were murdered. He stared at the spot where they were found, tearing himself up on the inside for his mistake. Yelling could be heard within the manager's office. It sounded bad. All of a sudden, the door shut open, and a man in a suit walking out. 5 days, Fosbach, 5 more days, and then you shut this place down. If you stay open a second later, I'll have the authorities on your fat ass faster than you could say oops. After that, the man stormed out of the restaurant into the harrowing cold of the outdoors. Fosbach sighed as Mike looked up at him. What was that all about, sir? Fosbach looked down at him. You hear the man, Schmidt. We're closing. Get your stuff out of the office. I need to get the movers in here to get this stuff out of here. Mike would have looked sad if he wasn't already. What'll happen to the animatronics? Fosbach released another heavy sigh. Either they'll get scrapped, or if they reopen other locations, they'll be used for parts. That's all he said. Fosbach muttered something about needing to be alone and exited the building, leaving Mike and the animatronics alone. What was they going to do? Mike appeared to be a suspect in the murder. They were closing, and James was still out there. Mike had nothing. He couldn't think properly, not with all the bullshit happening. He was about to go off when he realized something. Fosbach left his office open. James' name immediately popped into Mike's head. If they had employee records for the old location still, maybe they would have a file on him. Mike opened the door and scanned the office until his eyes fell on a filing cabinet labeled Employee Files. Mike walked over and opened it. Thank God it wasn't locked. He began flittering through all of them until he reached J. He flipped past all of them until he found it, James's file. He pulled it out and opened it, his face falling its disappointment as he saw that it was empty. Someone took his info. He probably took it so he wouldn't have to worry about it. But then Mike noticed another name. A name he had heard multiple times before. Jeremy Fitzgerald. Mike had heard about him from Mr. Fosbach, employees, and some people outside the restaurant. He even heard Phone Guy mention him once or twice. He was a guard at the previous location, the one who came after Fritz. He was moved to the day shift, but quit shortly after. No one really talked about why. Maybe he could have some info on James. He opened up his file and, to Mike's surprise, found his personal info, including a phone number. Hopefully he didn't change it. Mike ran to the office and dialed it up, praying that he had the same number and that he would pick up. A man answered the phone. Hello? Who's this? Mike quickly answered him. Hi, my name is Mike Schmidt, and I'm the current night guard at Freddy Faz. Mike interrupted him. What the hell do you want? I want nothing to do with that madhouse. Mike was surprised at his sudden outburst, but continued regardless. I was wondering if you knew someone called James? He could hear Jeremy drop the phone. What about the psychopath? Yes, as he picked it up. Do you know where he lives by chance? Jeremy merely answered him. No, and I don't want to know. I want to be as far away as possible from that child-murdering freak. He's insane, and you should keep away from him as well. Mike snapped back. I don't have a choice. That bastard is holding my parents hostage. He murdered a mother and kid, and he's playing with me like a goddamn toy. Jeremy was silent for a moment. Do you know that bench in the park by the fountain? The one by the birch tree? Mike nodded his head. Yeah, I know that one. Jeremy continued. Meet me there. I'll tell you everything. Just make sure no one is following you. I don't want another innocent kid getting killed because of this maniac. With that, Jeremy hung up. Mike was baffled. How much did Jeremy know exactly? He had to know, and meeting him was the only way to find out. He looked at the animatronics. I'll stop him and keep the pizzeria open, or die trying. He put on his winter coat and left for the park, knowing how true that statement could be. James watched Mike leave with the eyes of a hawk. He had been watching him for some time now, and to see him leave the pizzeria was an outside in relief. However, the place was closed for the day, most likely due to the gift he left for Mike and the kids. How he wished he could have seen their reactions. Their faces of sorrow and horror were probably priceless. He smirked just thinking about it. He watched as Mike walked down the street and turned the corner out of his vision. He began to follow from his place across the street when he saw something that made him freeze. It was a small boy with his father, walking down the sidewalk across from him. He couldn't take his eyes off of them. It was like someone superglued his attention onto them, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't take it off of them. Why? Why these people? He didn't feel his usual bloodlust, so he wasn't in the mood to murder, so why was he watching them? Then something else caught his attention. There was an odd feeling on his face. He reached up to touch it, and he saw he was crying. Why was he crying? He never cried before. At least he didn't think he did. The feeling felt familiar somehow. Very familiar. It was probably just his imagination, but then again, if it were, he wouldn't be physically reacting to it. Why? The question was frustrating James to no end, and he was about to lose it when he felt something. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. He was scared of what he was trying to remember. Why? What it could be to make him, of all people, scared. His father. It was starting to come back to him now. It was his father he remembered. The father who had given him life. The father who tried to snuff it out. His father hated him, and he regularly beats James until he felt contempt, or his arm got tired. How James survived is a question not even he himself could answer. The man was religious, yet an alcoholic. He called James a demon, a curse upon this world. His mother was the only one to show him compassion, and she died 8 years after James was born. His father blamed him for her death and kicked him out in a freezing December storm. Luckily, a person was kind enough to take him to a local orphanage where James thought he could escape the brutal persecution. He didn't. If anything, it was just as bad. His purple skin made him a target for every type of hateful comment, Even some of the adults joined in on these barrages of hate upon him. James wanted to stop remembering. He wanted it to stop, yet it kept going despite his pleas. It never got better for him. School was terrible, as he was a prime target for every bully there. However, it got slightly better when James got into college and met his roommate. His name was Jeremy Fitzgerald. James felt himself smile at the mere remembrance of his name. At the time that they met, James had taken a job at a local pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's. It was a wondrous place, at least he first saw it. He had a day shift, a job he didn't mind. He got to have free pizzas, watch the animatronic shows, even enjoyed the kids. However, that all changed one day when he got a call from his father. His father was on his deathbed, and he had called James to tell him something. James hoped his father realized his errors and regretted everything, and he called to apologize. That was far from what really happened. His father said he was right about him, said he would show his true demonic nature someday, and his father would watch him in heaven with shame. When the call ended, something snapped in James, and everyone noticed it. He grew more distant. He started to dislike the children, and even avoided Jeremy. His head at the time was in shambles. His father's last words were to tell him that he had told him all his life. His father wanted him. He wanted James to be a demon. Yes, that was it. He wanted to see his true colors. He would show them. He would show everyone that he was what he was capable of. And the perfect night guard had come. His boss asked him to watch a birthday party that would be a late one. The night guard would be there later, he said, so he should keep an eye out for him. When he got there, he went to a back room he found previously, which held a rugged golden bunny and a golden bear. He put the golden Freddy on and proceeded his course of action, the murder of the 5 children. What he hadn't realized was Jeremy saw the whole thing. He had called it in Fritz Smith, a previous guard, to assist him with a slight problem with the tablet. Fritz went to investigate and was knocked out. Jeremy saw James leave, oddly casual. He went to investigate and saw the aftermath. He was the one who called the cops afterwards. James' shirt was on Fritz, and soon all the evidence began mounting up against the poor guard until it was too late. That night, Jeremy returned to the apartment to find James breaking down. He regretted everything. He killed 5 innocent children, and now an innocent man was going to die because of him. Jeremy pleaded him to go and confess, instead of calling the cops himself. If he did, perhaps everything would have worked out in the end. The next day, James called the authorities and told him he had evidence they missed, and to meet him at the pizzeria. As soon as James walked in, Foxy ripped his frontal lobe out. Everything fell apart afterwards. With James in a critical state, the judge had to go with the death penalty, and Fritz was executed. When James woke up, he was a changed man. Any remorse or sanity he had in him was torn out, along with the front of his brain. All that was left was a hollowed shell, who remembered the one thing from the murder James wanted to forget: the exhilaration. He enjoyed the feeling, and he wanted more. It all led up to this current moment. Finally, the memory stopped flashing before James' eyes, and he could think clearly. He saw that the father and son were long gone. As was Mike, James held his forehead. All of those things he never could remember after the incident, but now it was all pieced together like a twisted jigsaw puzzle. James smiled. Foxy did him good. He was weak before, always regretting, always good. Now he could show his true colors, like his father always wanted. The colors of a demon. He chuckled. I'll see you in hell, Pops. Thanks for helping me find my true calling, my true color. And with that, he walked away, plotting his next move. Mike made it to the park relatively quick. He walked at a semi-fast pace, not wanting to slip on the leftover ice on the edges of the sidewalk. Luckily, the park was somewhere Mike frequented as a child with his parents. He always loved the swing set they had there. His parents would always push him, and he would keep saying higher, hoping that if he went high enough, he could touch the sky. How he missed that innocence. How he missed that innocence he once had. He just wished it could have left him in a different way. It did. No matter how hard he tried to let go, to forget, he never could. He started to think it would haunt him for the rest of his life. He quickly found the bench Jeremy had described over the phone, and on it sat a coated man who looked in his late 40s. He sat down next to the man. Are you Jeremy Fitzgerald? The man looked at him. I'm not James, that's for damn sure. Mike looked at him blankly. You said you were the new night guard, right? Jeremy said. Mike nodded. Yeah, I am, Jeremy sighed. First off, stop stuttering, kid. If I wanted to do something to you, I'd have already done it. Secondly, why the hell did you stay longer than a week? Not even the guards before me stayed longer than that, so why did you? Mike pondered. I needed the money, and the manager offered me double the pay if I stayed. Jeremy chuckled. Still a poor decision. Frankly, I'm surprised the animatronics haven't torn you apart yet, but we aren't here to talk about that place. You aren't info on James, so let me ask you something. Why the hell are you going to do with him? Mike stared him dead in his eyes. I'm going to stop him. Jeremy laughed at that. Stop him from what? Killing? Threatening someone? Kid, the man is a determined son of a bitch. Even if he puts the bastard down, he'd probably find some way out of it. How the hell do you know this much about him? You a part of his fan club? Jeremy's face suddenly turned stern. Don't push me like that, kid. Especially if it involves him. He wasn't always like this. I was his roommate. We were the best of pals. If you saw him back in the day, you'd probably think he was a hippie. He was always calm, but then his father called him. He said some shit, and James went off like a rocket. If only I tried helping him, maybe those kids would still be alive. So Jeremy didn't know about the animatronics' sentience. Mike would probably have to tell him later, but not now. Jeremy continued. He came home afterwards. That Fritz guy was put on death row and James began falling apart. He regretted everything and was even going to admit to the crime to save Fritz, but that pirate foxing bit his head and he couldn't be put on trial. So they went with Fritz. Mike was dumbfounded. He knew only part of the story, that trial. So that's what really happened. Damn it. If only Foxy hadn't bit him, everything would have worked out in the end. Mike shook his head. He couldn't start playing the blame game. Not this far into this shit. What can I do about him? That bastard is holding my parents hostage and he could easily kick my ass. Jeremy seemed surprised by that statement. He's what? Mike nodded his head. Jeremy looked down. He's interested in you, kid. He's always cut right to the chase when he killed after the incident. Motherfucker leaves hardly any evidence left to point in this direction every time. He's got something planned for you, but I don't know what. He's not the same James I knew all those years ago. I can't help you, kid. Believe me when I say this. I really wish I could help you, but I got nothing. You best get back to the pizzeria. Why would I? Place is closed. Jeremy looked at him. What? Why? Mike looked down. A mother and a baby were killed. James left them on display inside. Jeremy went pale. He didn't. That motherfucker didn't. No, 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 no. Son of a bitch, he killed her. He fucking killed her. Mike jumped due to the sudden outburst. Did you know him? Jeremy sat down on the bench after he was finished. That was my daughter. He killed my fucking daughter. Damn it. My wife trusted me with her, and I lost her. God damn it. He buried his face into his hands. Mike had no idea what the man was going through, but he tried, comforting him all the less. Then clapping was heard ahead of them. They both looked up and saw it was James. Jeremy, I was wondering when you'd figure it out. But what can I say? It's been a stressful time for all of us. Jeremy got up. You fucking bastard. Why her? Of all fucking people, why her? James just smiled. I need us all to lose something. For me, I lost my frontal lobe. My parents, my sanity, yada yada yada. Mike lost his parents and his friends, like he had any. And now you lost your daughter. We are all linked, webbed together. We will finish this together. Fate brought us together, can't you see that? We were meant to meet one another, so we could give life, give the joy of creation in our own ways. Jeremy stood there fuming. I'm going to kill you. James laughed. I believe that if you didn't have another problem. He pointed in the direction of the pizzeria where smoke could be seen. Jeremy and Mike ran all the way there, and what they saw made their jaws drop. The pizzeria was in flames. Mike and Jeremy could only watch in horror as the fire department doused the flames. It took a while due to the sheer intensity that they held. Jeremy left not too long after they saw the scene that had unfurled. He had to go and prepare tickets to Colorado since his wife was there on a meeting. He decided he should tell her in person rather than on a cellular device. Mike wished him luck and Jeremy did the same, but his wish was more sincere. Mike continued watching the pizzeria, wondering how far James would go due to whatever in God's name he was planning. He had said he needed them all to be missing something, that they were all linked. The hell did he mean by that? Mike kept trying to convince himself that it was just a madman's ramblings, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. After a couple of hours, Mr. Fosbach arrived at the scene at long last. A firefighter went over to him immediately and began questioning him. Mike overheard that they were able to get the animatronics out, but that they were burned badly in the fire. Mr. Fosbach demanded that he'd be allowed inside, but the firefighter simply told him that they had to clean everything up before anyone was allowed in, just to be safe. Fosbach groaned and simply left. Mike could only wonder what was going in the man's mind. This was the second heavy hit James laid on the place, and this might have been the straw's piece that broke the camel's back. With the limited funds that the restaurant had already and its now even worse popularity, the restaurant was sure to close. And sure enough it did. At exactly 4 o'clock, Fosbach called Mike and told him the news. Needless to say, Mike was quite heartbroken. He had just started to get used to the place. What was he going to do now? He didn't want to start job drifting again. He actually started to enjoy the job at Freddy's, and now it was taken away, just like everything else Mike found enjoyable. He asked Fosbach where the animatronics were. At least he would be able to try and visit them, if anything. However, Fosbach wouldn't open up, and he hung up the phone shortly afterwards. Mike sighed and looked at a drawing he had on the wall. Every day had been so crazy he nearly forgot it was there. It was a kid's drawing he had made, with him in the middle and Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy all around him. Best friends, Ren and Crane underneath. Jesus. He had bad grammar when he was a kid. What was he supposed to do? The restaurant was closed, the animatronics were God knows where. James was still out there. Everything just seemed to be turning to hell, but he couldn't linger on it more than he already had, even if it was only a short time. If he didn't find a job fast, he would be thrown out, and he did not want that to happen. He searched newspapers day and night, tried nearly every job he saw, but never could keep them like he did before at the pizzeria. The rent day. Schmidt, open up! Where's my goddamn money? The owner screamed. Mike opened the door slowly but surely. I don't have it. The owner just stared at him angrily. Get your stuff, Schmidt, and get the hell out. Mike slowly nodded, did as he was told, and walked out of the building into the nipping air. Luckily, it was morning at the time. Mike just looked up at the sky. What had happened? Where had everything gone wrong? Mike would have went to his parents had he had any means of transportation. His vehicle was also taken away, not to mention he was told they were on some sort of trip, most likely to get their minds off being attacked in their own home. Mike couldn't blame them at all. They were his parents. How could he? He was just glad that they were out of reach from that psychopath. He luckily didn't have to bring much since he didn't own that much in that room. Well, that was one thing he could be considered blessed for. What was he going to do now? Even he didn't know. All he could do was trek forward. James smiled maliciously as he said everything out. Yes, this would be an amazing plan indeed. Everything was perfect. The animatronics were in place, the pizzeria was shut down, and Mike was confused. Now all James had to do was bring him and Jeremy in. He had to. They were all in this together. The joy of creation will spread. It will be completed. They will give all the children life, a chance to escape this hellish grip of death, of this collapsing world. Isn't that what anyone wanted? An escape from death's cold grip? He was doing them all a favor. They will see. They will all see what he means good once he was done. This was just the start of something new, and Mike and Jeremy would help him carry it out, no matter their opinion. It was time for him to begin. Jeremy sat in the airport, looking out a large window. He had been called by his wife Jessica multiple times, no doubt to find out why he hadn't contacted her in a while. In fact, she had just called him by him now, but he ignored the call. He had to tell her in person what happened. If he told her over the phone, who would comfort her? Nobody, but at the same time, he couldn't help but feel like staying here, at least for a while longer. Something always happened there that seemed to draw him back towards it. He wanted to forget about it, forget it even existed, but how could he when it kept coaxing him back? He looked at the ticket he held in his palm, wondering if he could stay. He then closed his hand into a fist, crushing the ticket. James had to pay for what he did to his daughter, and Jeremy would see to it that he did. Personally, Mike sat in a broken-down alleyway, looking down at the pavement below him. He had come so far down. Suddenly he got a call from his cell. He looked at who was calling him, and saw his mother's cell phone number. It was James. He picked up. "You son of a bitch," he heard James laugh. "Now, Mike, that's no way to talk to someone over the phone, especially when they have a certain leverage." He heard the phone being moved. "Mikey, help!" It was his mother's voice. He had his parents. Oh, sweet mother of God, he had his parents. "Don't you lay a finger on them, you dirty bastard." James chuckled. Dirty? Last time I checked, I wasn't the one who was homeless. But anyway, I'm going to cut to the chase here. I've got a schedule running here, so meet me at Fazbear's. The doors will be opened. I'll see you there. He hung up. Mike tightened his grip on the phone. He had his parents. He was going to kill them. But if Mike went, he would get killed. No. That was enough. No more being afraid. No more being a spineless kid waiting for mom and dad. They weren't coming, and he had to accept that. It was time to move on. Alright, you sick son of a bitch. You want me? You're about to get me. Jeremy got up and was walking out of the airport when his phone began to ring. He nearly ignored the call until he checked who it was. The caller ID was Purple Guy. Jeremy picked up. Sure enough, it was James. Jeremy, how's it going, buddy? Been a strange day, huh? You learned your daughter was dead, the pizzeria burnt down, Mike is homeless, and all this bullshit is falling from the fucking sky. Can you believe it? Jeremy grunted. What the hell did you call me for, you asshole? He could practically feel James' grin. I'm about to make your strange day even stranger. What if I told you your sweet little daughter was unharmed? Jeremy was about to lose it when he heard it. He heard her voice. Daddy? It was her. Oh God, it was her. Courtney? He heard James take the phone back. If you don't want her to end up dead like that other chick and kid in the restaurant, I suggest you come to Freddy's. We have some unfinished business. Oh, and if you're wondering, I found that lady on the street. I just had to see your reaction if you actually thought I killed your daughter. And I have to say, it was priceless. He hung up. Jeremy bolted out of the airport and towards his car. He had to move fast. It was time to end this. Mike and Jeremy surprisingly arrived at the pizzeria roughly around the same time. Mike, what are you doing here? Mike looked at Jeremy surprised. Crazy son of a bitch is holding my parents hostage. What are you doing here? Jeremy looked down. He's got my daughter. Mike looked at him. Your daughter? But I thought... Jeremy interrupted. He found someone who looked identical to her. He wanted to get a reaction out of me. They both looked at the front doors of the restaurant chains that had given them so much trouble. You ready for this, Mike? Mike nodded. I was born ready for this kind of bullshit. And with that, they pushed in the doors and entered. The restaurant still looked slightly charred, but it was no doubt better than what it was previously. They both wandered from room to room until Mike noticed something. Hey, that room wasn't there before. Jeremy walked over and looked at it. You sure? Mike nodded. I never saw that room before. Come on. They walked down the hall towards the door, which was next to Pirate's Cove. It looked like someone had walled it up. They walked in and saw the scene. The charred forms of the animatronics were lined up in the back, including Golden. Oil leaked from their eyes like they had been crying. Mike's parents and Jeremy's daughter were on the left of the wall of the room next to them. In the center of it all stood James with a knife. Glad you both could make it. Jeremy pointed at James maliciously. Cut the shit, James. Let them go. All of them, including the bots. Mike looked at him. So he already knew about the animatronic's sentience. Saved him the trouble of telling him. James laughed. Come here and make me. We all will be together, giving life no matter what you say or do. It's destiny, boys. Mike leaned over to Jeremy. Get the bots out of their days. I'll handle James. Jeremy looked at him. Are you insane, Mike? He'll kill you. Mike looked at him. I have been waiting for this ever since I first met the bastard. I can do this, Jeremy. Just trust me. Jeremy looked down, pondering. Fine, but if you die, not my fault. Mike smiled. It was time to get down and dirty. Alright, you knuckle-dragging, dick-whacking purple piece of dog shit. Let's go. Mono, motherfucker, no weapons. Just our bare, goddamn hands. Come at me. Unless you're a pussy, since you can't fight shit without a weapon. James' face went from snarky to extremely pissed off. He threw the knife down and tackled Mike, going nuts on his face with his fist. Jeremy immediately rushed over to the animatronics and began coaxing them. They were in shock due to the pain of the flames and nearly consumed them. Golden was the worst, having been traumatized from his first time being set aflame by James. Mike, in the meantime, luckily caught one of James' fists and head-butted him. He was full of adrenaline. It was a do or die, and he wasn't going to die today. As soon as James stumbled off of him, Mike kicked him in the chest, sending him farther away. Allowed Mike to get up. James did the same and immediately went on the attack again. Mike kept blocking, but James kept getting jabs in, and if Mike didn't do something, his defense was going to fall. Then he noticed that James kept going high, leaving his midsection open. The next punch James threw, Mike ducked and punched him straight in the ribs. The pain made James fall on his knees, holding his ribs, and then Mike kneed him in the face. However, Mike wasn't expecting James to counter so quickly. As soon as he hit the floor, James kicked Mike straight in the balls. Mike, like any other man in the same situation, fell to his knees. Allowing James to uppercut him onto the floor, James began laughing, wiping the blood that leaked from his lip. I gotta admit, Mike, I didn't expect you of all people were capable of that kind of shit. To think you were never in a fight before now, and you nearly had me. He bent down and picked up his knife. However, I'm afraid I have to cut you short of your little victory. He was about to stab Mike square in the chest, despite the screams from his parents when he heard laughter. Not any normal laughter. Freddy laughter.
Now, James, I think it's about time we got a little payback, wouldn't you say?
Freddy said in a dark tone. All of the animatronics' eyes were black, with white pinpricks of light, and they were focused on James. James' face turned to that of fear, and he quickly ran out of the room. The animatronics, Jeremy, his daughter, Mike, and his parents all following suit. He was in the back room. The door, however, was locked. The animatronics were able to get open with little difficulty, and the two guards told the others to stay out here while they and the animatronics went in. When they did, they saw a frightful sight. It was James in a golden Bonnie suit. I have worked too hard on this to lose to you brats now. I will not lose. I am the purple guy. I am your killer and creator. I gave you life. He was cut off quickly. The suit he was in was a hybrid suit, allowing for the endoskeleton inside to turn wearer-friendly. The skeleton itself in its suit mode was spring-locked, and any frantic movement would unlock them, making it crush the wearer. And that is exactly what happened to James. He was too frantic in his movements, and the suit's skeleton unlocked, killing him almost instantly. Blood began leaking from the suit out of every exit it could, and it collapsed to the ground. Mike fell to the ground. It was over. It was finally over. Two men known as Todd and Gerald walked inside the remains of the charred Fazbear restaurant. They seemed content with what they were doing and seemed to be searching for something. Alright, you heard the boss. Look around for any of those animatronics, Todd said. Gerald seemed unsure about this. Are you sure we should even be here? You heard the rumors of this place being haunted. Todd shook his head. That's all they are, idiot. Rumors. Look, the company wants the animatronics found and fast. Something about reopening that other one with the toys. Gerald seemed surprised. Seriously? Why would they do that? What is it? The third time they're keeping this shit going? You gotta be kidding me, Todd shrugged. Hey, as long as we get paid, what does it matter? After a thorough search, the two men were about to give up on their search when they found the back room. Once they opened it, they found the charred animatronics. Oh jeez, they're pretty burnt up, Gerald stated. Todd looked at him. Well, yeah, didn't you hear about the fire that started here 2 weeks ago? Animatronics were still inside when it happened. Gerald seemed doubtful now. You think the company will still take them? They look pretty badly damaged. Todd nodded. Yeah, they should anyway. Not like they're going to be used in any shows, and if they are, then the company will fix them up. Come on, let's get them out of here. After a hefty struggle of strength and willpower, the two men were able to pull the animatronics out and back into the back of the truck that they brought along with them. After they were done, Gerald seemed hesitant to leave. Oh, for Christ's sake, what is it now? Todd grumbled. Gerald looked at him. I don't know, I just feel like we forgot something in there. Todd sighed. Fine, let's look around some more. Not like I could harm us any. The two men searched around as if they were looking for lost gold or the city of El Dorado. It didn't take long until they found something. Hey Todd, come look at this, Gerald yelled. Todd came as soon as he heard him and looked at what he had found. It seemed to be a hidden door that was covered up by wallpaper. It had been by sheer luck they had found it, and inside they found a golden rabbit animatronic. What the hell is that? They never said anything about a golden bunny, Gerald said. Todd quickly retorted. Look, it doesn't matter if they didn't mention it. They might give us extra for finding another one. Come on, help me get the equipment. This one looks a lot more fragile than the others. With that, the two men left the truck, just in time to miss the faint purple glow coming from the animatronic's eyes, and miss what it said afterwards. I'm still